Thom Hartmann radio program. Alex, by the way, from Prague is going to give us a call at the bottom of the hour because right now, time for our weekly labor segment sponsored by UnionJobs.com. Putting people to work, union work, since 1997. It's a great website, UnionJobs.com. Check it out. Jonathan Tasini is with us. He's the executive director of the Labor Research Organization. Their website is workinglife.org. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tom. Great to be back.
Great to have you back. The Democratic senators are messing with the Employee Free Choice Act.
I'm shocked.
You know, your suggestion that we should consider primary opponents to these guys who want to mess with the Employee Free Choice Act, I think is brilliant.
Yeah, well, let's sort of give people a little background. I've never believed the math that we're just one vote short of the 60 votes you need to cut off the filibuster in the Senate, the 59 votes, including Al Franken, assuming he's seated. The theory was you then bring over one more Republican. But there's about 5 or 6, 7 pro-business Democrats, like Mary Landrieu, Blanche Lincoln, who are going to mess with EFCA. Not only do we have to fight them, I think we should take on field some primary opponents against anybody who undercuts EFCA in a way that it becomes not the tool that the labor movement needs.
Right. And by the way, it only takes 51 votes to change the Senate rules on a filibuster. The so-called nuclear option. I've got no problem if Harry Reid wants to pull the nuclear option to get some important. I mean, George Bush was running around going, we're at war, it's a national disaster, it's 9/11, and therefore we've got to shred the Constitution, we've got to throw out the First and Fourth and Fifth and Sixth and Seventh and Eighth Amendments to the Constitution and blah blah blah. And wiretap our citizens and put people in jail. If all of that is the case, I would submit to you that the crisis that we are facing economically right now is greater than the crisis that we were facing as a consequence of 9/11. 3,000 people dying is a terrible thing, but I'm sorry, it didn't bring down the entire country. This is bringing down the entire country, and a strong middle class will bring it back, and the Employee Free Choice Act, among other things, is part of that. And if Obama wants to have the legacy of Roosevelt, if he wants to really get things done, he's got to blow up the filibuster.
Well,
or he's got to have Harry Reid force these guys to actually stand there and talk, which is going to involve getting a large amount of testosterone into Harry Reid. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, or the third option, which I think you are leading to, is this. Look, Harry Reid and the President of the United States can make this vote a vote that the caucus has to stick together. They have those kinds of votes once or twice a year. The majority leader, in this case the President, can come to the caucus and say, this is important to me. This is about, as you point out, reviving the middle class, strengthening the labor movement. We want everybody in line. And I would say, short of fighting in the filibuster, let's make it a vote that they're required to abide by.
Yeah. Well, what do you think the odds are of that happening?
Well, I'm an optimist. I think it's small. And remember,
because it's not what I'm hearing. It's not what I'm hearing, Jonathan.
Yeah, I know. Some form of the Employee Free Choice Act is going to pass the Congress. The question is what the content is going to be. And you're right. It's going to be a tough fight, particularly with those conservative Democrats. I think we have to make it a lot, basically a caucus party line vote and punish those who don't stand in line. And, it could be that the President says, I'm not going to go and appear at a fundraiser for you. There's lots of tools and sticks that the President can use to force these people in line.
Right. Who's the one Republican that you're going to bring in?
Well, the theory has always been that the number one person would be Arlen Specter, partly because he comes from a state, Pennsylvania, that went very strongly for Obama. And also, Arlen Specter has been one of those Republicans who has been decent, and I want to be underscored, decent on labor issues. He typically does vote on big labor bills with the labor movement. The problem is that Arlen Specter is now potentially facing a primary from the right when he comes up for re-election. Right. So he's kind of, right between a rock and a hard place. But
unless he becomes a Democrat.
That's one theory that I've seen floating around. The other people, there's Olympia Snow and Susan Collins, who are potential people might come across. But
although Maine is not a big labor state.
That's correct. It does not have a lot of union members. That's absolutely right.
So they would not pay much of a price if they didn't support this thing. Frankly, I don't think. But Arlen Specter, maybe we all should be Democrats should all be reaching out to Arlen Specter, sending him flowers and chocolate and saying, hey Arlen, come on over. Although he does get a little cranky sometimes.
I think you're right, though. I think his political future is as a Democrat, to the extent that that's all he cares about is just being reelected. I think he might lose his primary as a Republican.
I think there's a very good chance of that. Who's the guy? I'm forgetting his name. They're probably going to put up against him?
Last time Pat Toomey from the Club for Growth ran against him and lost, but I think got in the 40s or something like that.
Yeah, and there's been enough water over the bridge since then, and enough times that Arlen Specter has deviated from the party line that he may well have a chance. Toomey may well have a chance to take him down this time. So that's one way. But I agree with you. We need to contact our senators. Actually, we also need to have grassroots contact with our senators. Call your each one of us have 2 senators, and call your senators. Call your Republicans and tell them you're in favor of the Employee Free Choice Act. But call your Democratic senator and say, if you don't vote for the Employee Free Choice Act, if you don't come out publicly for it now, then I'm going to be seriously considering whoever your primary opponent is. Come whenever you're up for re-election. Right?
I'm all for that.
Okay, Jonathan Tasini, workinglife.org, the website, brought to you by unionjobs.org. Thanks, Jonathan.
Hey, Tom, keep up the great work. Thanks.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.